I I just wanted to tell everybody that today will be my last MVP. I'm retiring.
Oh,
Congratulations, Diane. That's amazing.
Yeah.
so jealous.
I didn't plan on retiring this soon. I was going to wait until September, but my company got acquired and
It worked out.
it worked out better for me.
Well, congratulations, Dan. You're always welcome to come back if you just get like twitchy and want to like configure something in a sandbox.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. If I can see if I can find like part-time Salesforce admin work,
Hey.
I might be back, but yeah, I'm not in a
What we
hurry.
call fractional consulting. I don't know if all of you remember Marty. She actually also retired, and she was a long time attendee. And I was like missing her one day, and I was like, "Where did Marty go?" So I found her and reached out to her. She's like, "Oh, I retired." I was like, "Oh, that's great." So Diane, thank you for the heads up.
I just would like to say thank you for all of you because my career could not have been as successful as it was without this group and that Milwaukee MVP, Milwaukee group, Squire. I don't know if you remember, but I think you and I have been part of that group for a long time.
Yeah,
I
long time.
remember when we were meeting around a conference table in some office building. Um, yeah, so I really do appreciate everybody who has helped me. Even when you don't know you're helping me just by me being on these calls and listening. So I do really appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You're very
You
welcome.
you made my weekend, Diane. Thank you.
Made the whole month. It was great. It's great. All right, get all that squishiness out of the way. Wow.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
You hush over there. I'll take care of this. Okay, welcome to MVP Office Hours. Today's April 18th, 2025. We're really glad you're here. Diane, we're really glad you joined us today. And we're gonna see if we can do this right. We generally run this call on the first and third Fridays. You can find us on LinkedIn. Our handles are on the screen here. There is also an MVP Office Hours Twitter, but I think Twitter is kind of like settled down. And if you email us, don't expect a response right away. The fastest way to get a response is to post up in the community and tag Problem Solve Together, Community Learner, and MVPOH. There are some upcoming events. We've got True North Dreamin', Mid-Atlantic Dreamin', Mar Dreamin', Tahoe Dreamin', Texas Dreamin' in April and May. And then June rolls out Montreal Dreamin' Connections, Dreamin' in Color, Soñando in Color, and Southeast Dreamin'. If I pronounce that wrong, someone else can correct me. I am not a Spanish speaker. I can read some Spanish, tiny bits. If you want to see more about this, salesforce.com/events or trailhead.salesforce.com/community/conferences. And then the bit.ly for registration is always the same, bit.ly/MVPOH. Click on that and it'll just show you the next meeting, and you're welcome to join us anytime. We love it. And then the YouTube channel is on there too. Next. How was that? Was that fast enough?
Awesome. You're crushing it.
And again, the success community is your friend. There's the QR code. If you want to get to that. And if you have the Trailhead app on your phone, that should open things up, but it might be a little bit janky. We do invite everyone to share their experience, insights, and ideas with the group because we all learn more together. Because I can focus on things for a long time, but if I never touch this thing and your experience is over in this thing, I need that. So we want everyone to share everything. If you have links or resources, post those up in the chat. And if you have a question, post it in the chat and/or raise your hand with the little clicky things on the bottom. You guys can find those. And then don't forget, we are recording. We're recording. If you can't be recorded, you should say goodbye now and then catch the recording later. Please do not share any private or proprietary information. We want to have fun and keep it professional and positive because we don't want anyone to lose their job because they were extra candid on this call. Under no circumstances can our content be transcribed or recorded by an AI tool. If this is your plan, please stop. Ready? Do we have questions? We have 3 comments in the chat that I haven't looked at yet. And we do have 2 questions that were mentioned in MVP Office Hours. Rebecca had talked, is Rebecca on the call? I don't think she is. So we will see if we can make some sense of what she has. And then we will come back to it. We will like answer as best we can, but if anyone has any answers on this, that'd be great. So she's looking for advice on how other folks are managing this use case, receiving email alerts when a specific action occurs in Salesforce. While we encourage users to manage this via native in-app Salesforce features, this is at times simply not acceptable. With email alerts being retired, we are now managing each of these individual email requests via Flow, which not only is tedious to manage, but it counts against our governor limits.
Email alerts are being retired?
I need to look into that.
I don't think that's the case. I think that might be conflating that with like Process Builder and Workflow being retired.
Yeah.
I see a lot of head nodding here. And so we can post the link to this in the chat, and we can kind of circle back with that. So before we go too far off the deep end on solutioning, let's make sure that this is indeed the issue. Okay, now.
I mean, I think the world would be crashing and burning if they were taking away email.
Oh
or
yeah.
There
flow,
too. So Squire
That-
posted
that'll put my
a
ear-
link to this in the chat if any of you want to go down the resource and the rabbit hole with this. But Rebecca is not on the call right now, so we are going to circle back with this after we tackle Michael flow collection filter validation clarification, because Michael, I believe, is on the call. Yes,
I did see him.
I saw a smile even. That was great.
We'll see.
Do you want to give us a rundown of what's going on, Michael?
Yeah, just real quick, I would longtime flow user, do it all the time. I'm in the process of refactoring some existing flows into a new one. And in the past, in the old ones, I'm not using collection filtering. I'm get, whatever. So now I was using the filter, and reading the documentation had the feeling that the filter would kind of do what it does, it filters. But then there's like little text in it that says, and then you can use this element called current item in filter and use that instead of looping. So I was doing that, but then obviously wasn't getting the results that I wanted. So if you see in the comment there, it was like, so I filter my collection down to like 1 or 2 records from 100, but I still have to go through and loop them, assign them, and then add them to another variable, a record variable that I can then process later as an update record or a create record step. So I just wanted to clarify that is the correct use of that, so that I want to verify that that's correctly. I'm not missing something with that filter. Even if I filter down to like 1 record kind of a scenario, I still have to assign, add, and then work with the value. So I just wanted to validate that. That's what I was trying to get to.
Seeing some head nods. I'm seeing some discerning looks.
So I it's been a while, and now I want to crack one open right away, but I thought you could act on the filtered list. You'd still have to assign the changes to a new value, to a new collection in order to do those upserts. But I don't think you have to put it and get the collection variable, filter it, put that in a collection variable, then loop through it and do a collection variable. Can't you skip that step? Or does it end up being the exact same thing the way you're describing it? It's just you're doing it a step earlier. I need to write more flow.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Todd, or someone. Yeah, I was just I get my collection, filter down, and then in that loop I would say that's my collection, is that filtered subset, and then I process it through. But yeah, you can do other things, like I was seeing examples of do a count of, and then assign the results of the count without having to do any looping or anything like that. But
Sure.
But for using with the values that are in the record, and again, even if it was just 1 record, it creates this like current item in filter, which I don't see the value of that. So I'm curious what the value of that current item in filter, other than putting it through a loop, is. So that was kind of an ancillary question that I had regarding that.
My experience was, yes, you still have to put it through the loop to get a value into that current item. I actually ran into this just a few weeks ago. I was fighting the same thing going, why don't you just, I only have one record, load up that current item and let me work with it. And there was nothing there to work with. And I finally dumped it into a loop. Yeah, seems not really efficient to do a one record loop, but that's the way it worked for me.
Yeah, okay.
So on my
Same.
experience, I'd say, yes, you're doing it correctly by running it through the loop right now.
Yeah, it's possible you might be able to use a transform depending on what you're trying to do.
I did see that as well, but that's
Um,
another net new that I'm like, oh great, now.
Yeah,
Oh,
transform
yeah.
is your
But yeah,
friend.
so-
You should drop
Transforms are
everything and
awesome.
learn that.
All
Yeah.
right. I'm
Yeah,
gonna go
they're
do that.
really cool.
And I think that's
Um,
going back to what I was asking, because I think that's what our use case was we got like 1,000 records. We filtered it to like the 60 we cared about. And then we did transform on that 60 and dropped all those into a new component, into a new element so that we could then do the updates on those. And you didn't have to loop then. But the single element, so I'd like to know more, especially Todd, if you've used it. Like, so is the idea that it's you have to use that thing because you can't go from a collection to an individual variable? Like tell me more about what you're seeing in that use case of the current item in loop or in filter. Like what's the use case for that?
Just my experience was that variable doesn't get a value until you run through the loop.
Got
The
it.
loop itself is what populates that variable. It doesn't just automatically put one in there just by doing the filter. So it doesn't preload anything. It's the loop itself that puts that value in there.
Okay. So let me say back just to make sure I get it, not for the room. I think everybody else gets it but me. So we've got a collection. We whittle it down to a smaller collection. And then you have to do something with the collection, but in order to do that thing, you're plucking out each item and then assigning it to a current item variable in order to act on it. And are you then having to do something else, a third step, which is then take that current item and put it in a new collection for the update? Or are you writing back to, like, what are you doing with it next then?
I think you can do it either way. And just to
Okay.
clarify, you're not actually assigning it explicitly to that current item. Current item is controlled by the loop.
Yeah. Okay. Does that apply to both the get and the filtered list, or does this only pop up when you're working on a filtered list?
I believe it's both.
Okay.
Even if whatever collection you have, whether you've filtered it or just done a straight get, you still have to run it through the loop for it to move that pointer, essentially.
Sure.
That pointer
Yeah.
is just not pointing to anything.
Which is why transform is so great, because you don't have to loop through anything. You can just take list of X and turn it into a list of Y, right?
I think something I've always been confused by with the filter element is that it has this current item thing that I think is something on the back end that Salesforce, like, I don't know if it's running a loop and we shouldn't really have access to that thing, because as far as I know, you can't do anything with it in the filter itself or like after it. It gets blanked out after the filter element completes, as far as I know.
Yeah, I
So
think
I'm
so,
not really sure
because
why it's there.
when I reference that current item in
It's empty.
in the debug, it's just null. They're all null values,
Yeah.
and it just comes through as emptiness.
Yeah, I think it's something to do with how the filter works. And so, but I don't know. It's black box.
Yeah. I mean, because if you think about it, like, in Sarah, you probably as much as anybody on the call, like when you think about what that element is doing, if you're writing it in code, you'd have to assign the shorter list to a new element anyway, right? In order to act on it. I mean, if you're going to filter, you wouldn't, you'd have to do a new collection variable if it was a line of code, right?
Yeah, I think so. And like you're looping through it to see, does this record fit the criteria? Does this record fit the criteria? Right?
Well,
In the filter.
The
In the
filter,
internal
yeah, the filter is
workings.
saying I am give me this record that has this name or this ID or sorry, this name, and then I'm left with like one. But yeah, in like you said, behind the scenes, it's basically it's a better UI on a preloop on the old loop, the old loop method. But yeah,
I mean, there's probably some efficiencies in the code that we don't know about, but Anyway, I've never been able to use that directly from the outputs of the collection filter. I don't think it works. So I think you're right in what you're doing, even if it
Okay.
seems inefficient.
Well, I'm gonna go look at transform as well because I really don't want to do work today. So I'm gonna go do transform, and then
Amen, brother.
I want to learn. I don't want to do. But yeah, I'll go check that out as well before I commit to this full. Before I go loopy.
Oh, don't be too candid on the calls. Come on, folks. It's fantastic. Okay, so do we have any other questions that popped up in the chat? I don't see any questions in the chat. Does anyone have anything that they're curious about, concerned about, want to talk about? I'd really, really, really love to hear all your thoughts on the new approval orchestration. If you haven't already looked at that. Todd, you're muted. I saw you say something, but
I said I have not looked
you
at
have
that
not,
yet.
because that orchestration is not going to count against your numbers on that. Michael, I was going to say yes to your note in the chat. Is Chatter going away? I think Chatter is retiring. Parker had been very candid in an interview, I think last summer, that he created Chatter and was going to, I don't know exactly the terminology he used, but he was also probably going to destroy Chatter. So seeing as he's in charge of Slack these days, something we should all be keeping in our ear to the ground on. Because if you're using Chatter in your business processes now, you're going to want to be aware of all those things and how you could possibly flex new solutions.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here. I feel like it'll take them as long to get rid of Chatter as it's taking them to get rid of S controls.
I also think it's going to be worse than the Lightning transformation. It's going to be a long-term thing, but it is also going to turn into something that's not supported based on the last 20 years of watching Salesforce do what they do. They don't just like take it away. They they slowly but surely don't support it anymore. David, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, it's end of life. It's been
There you
announced
go.
end of life. It's next summer. I forget the exact date, but yeah, it's going to be killed off.
I think that it'll be like most of the other stuff where we're not going to support, we're not going to add to it, and you should probably try to get away from it, and we're going to make it as difficult as possible for you to continue to use it. Almost like the way that Process
Workflows
Builder
and
was.
Process Builder, yeah.
Right. Like,
Yep.
we're not going to just turn them off, but boy, you don't want to keep using them. So,
Right.
because and I think Chatter, especially because there's so much internally tied to it, everything from feed to notifications, that like it's going to be really hard to just turn it off, but they're going to make it.
Phase it out. Phase it out.
Do you think the response will be then an in-platform Slack channel, or do you think you'll just have to buy Slack?
I mean, you can use Slack for free. So the question is, do you just connect Slack for free?
But you can't, because it doesn't go back more than 3 months.
Well, I guess that's my point, is like you could technically use it. There's severe limitations. I mean, just like
based on what's available today.
Right. Basically, like I've talked to someone at Salesforce about the fact that emails take up so much of storage, and the only real option is to either build a trigger, which for some places that involves also cost, or to buy a third-party solution. So like at the end of the day, are they going to say, we gave you the feature? You might not, if you want more bells and whistles, you have to pay for it? Probably.
Why wouldn't you just delete the email records after a certain date?
So I wish we could. I work for a data company, and it's like prying any data out of their cold, dead hands. We instituted a 3-year policy on keeping stuff, and we already get a lot of pushback that they want more and more data, and we just aren't willing to support that. They want to be able to say, someone took a training 20 years ago. It's ridiculous. So we're going to be in this year, we're going to be approaching more with the stick and less with the carrot. It's going to be less of a collaboration and more of like, this is what's happening. because it's really hard to maintain it. Um, you know, and we have tools that can help archive and bring it out.
We're in
But also
finance,
deleting mass emails is also kind of a pain in the butt.
Mhm.
we're in finance, and we've got to keep things for 7+. I know, Mary, you come
So-
from finance, right?
So I come from finance. We actually follow HIPAA rules. So while you have to keep things for 7 years, 7 years doesn't have to mean in the org. So for us, we archive anything older than 3 in terms of email messages from our org. And then that archive has to stay around for 7 years.
Interesting. We've had some challenges with our compliance group suggesting that system of record can't be the archive. So I might follow up with you and
Yeah.
I've
I
heard
mean,
that of
also technically the emails are in the email server. So there's
True.
a secondary source.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about
And they
context.
probably have like Smarsh or Global Relay too, is my guess, right?
We're a global relay office. The conversation had to do with like point of origin. So even though it's all tracked and reversible, it's not in context of our deals. So, but
Yeah.
I don't agree with it because I'm like, well, says who, right? So anyway, all right.
Yeah.
I might follow up with you next time we're having coffee.
Sure. And to move off a Global Relay is just so expensive. I don't know. We did it at my old company and mid 6 figures for a small company.
Goal's not going anyway at our place.
Man, that was a can of worms, Michael. Thanks.
Nice, real nice.
Way to kick the
You
hornet's
wanted
nest.
engagement, you wanted action. I bring the.
I mean,
bring
you
the
know,
goods.
it's great. It's great. And you know,
Let's talk about Process Builder next and workflow rules after that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I want
That's
to
what, that's
show
what
you
I
my
was
new.
thinking.
I'll show you my new page layout on Classic.
Yeah.
Hey.
Okay.
Kick it around classic like that. I like classic. Makes me smile. In a way that, you know, I like the children's books that I have from my children's childhood and the children's book that my mother saved from my childhood. That's how I like classic. I don't need to use it on the regular.
Speaking of classic, because there aren't any other questions at the moment, Michael, I have a small bone to pick with DLRS. It made me go to classic to delete a field the other day. And I was like, I don't know. It was a lookup
Like
Like it
summary item.
redirected, it
Prove
redirected
it was
you or
prove it was DLRS that made you go to Classic.
I will show you. Yes, I will prove it.
I like it. I like it.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared to pull that up, but
That's okay.
It's
You've got a moment.
it's because I was updating. I guess I had old summaries that were using the old fields, and the only way to delete them was to go to Classic to delete them because you couldn't delete them from Lightning.
Wait,
And so I had to go into setup.
You're saying you had DLRS that's like 8 years old and they
Yeah.
weren't in custom metadata? Okay,
Yes.
that's not Dolores. We've come out with like 50 versions since then.
Okay,
That
fair.
You had a very, very old Dolores. Not the same thing.
Okay, I'm just saying, I was like, how do I do this? And the instructions were like, turn on Classic. And I was totally lost because I don't know anything about Classic.
I don't have access to
I'm a
classic. What are you talking
baby. Yeah.
about?
Anyway, you're right. It's not really their fault, but your fault, whatever, our fault. But
It
Anyway,
happened while
it
I
was
was
funny.
using your tool that
It's
you know
true.
about, and then
Yeah.
that's a
that
second
isn't
mention
my
today.
tool, right? We all own the
no,
tool.
it's our tool. It's a communal tool. But yeah, it was just funny. I thought it was funny that I ended up in Classic and I was like, I don't even know where to go to find the field to know how to delete this thing. It took me like way longer than it should have, but it's all sorted now.
Oh,
Like that-
my.
like that reverse Classic hack where it's like if you'd get this weird error message if you were trying to like, I don't know, just delete a record type or something like that. It was like, this record type is the default for these profiles, and they were
For
like
Chatter.
standard baked in. Yeah, the Chatter profile. Yeah.
There's a
Like-
tool now.
Oh
Well, for the
yeah,
longest time, the
Tim
online
Shaw
help and
built a
training
tool.
yeah.
I just
For
put
the
it in the
longest-
chat.
But
It's
for the longest
awesome.
time, the knowledge article was this like mother of all backdoor classic UX hacks. Like the
Mhm.
online help was like
Yeah.
this backdoor.
I like had it bookmarked and I'd send it to people like, how did you find this? I'm like, I don't even know, but I've always, but like when I start a new place, I copy the bookmarks over.
The tool that Tim built is pretty awesome because yeah, that hacky official help method is terrible, but the tool makes it surprisingly simple.
And if you have access to your XML, you can do it too. It's just real easy. It's just a little more tedious.
Kind of like my hack. I think it doesn't work anymore, but I was able to create a custom web tab that had a link back to the old school merge accounts thing where you could just like look up the account and you could merge more than one at a time. But that's broken now.
We have some old app called Merge Anything that doesn't exist anymore, and it lets us merge anything we want together. It's really nice.
That's amazing.
I know we use because there's not a lot like that. There's not a lot of tools that do handle merge really well.
No, it's really hard because you have all of the related items that might be touching things and you want to compare it field by field. And it's like, all right, well, I want the original record, but I also want these updated fields. And you don't appreciate all the things we had until they just kind of fade out because of the way things transform. But here we are. Here we are.
But you can still add a merge accounts button to the accounts tab. It does take you to a classic, whatever, Visualforce page, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it works.
Yuck.
Oh, man. All right. So do we have any other questions, inquiries, challenges, curiosities?
This flow thing is killing me. If nobody has
flow
anything, can we jump back to it?
Yeah.
Michael's got my head spinning. So if we don't have anything else, I
let's do it.
started a really generic flow and I just want to see, I want you to walk me through what you're seeing so I can understand what it is so that I can then speak logically about it in the future.
I'm sure the pain.
Okay. All right. So here we go. So this is just and I need to make something small, so I apologize. All right. So
I mean, it's the right size for me. I don't know.
I had everybody smiling faces, and that doesn't help me be productive. So I have a little sandbox that I use to keep track of my credentials. So I got all the records, then I filtered them all to a smaller list, and then I was just going to do a quick conversion. But you were saying that if you loop through this list, you have to do something special. Is that right?
No, I think what he was saying is you should be able to find an element called current item from loop.
Like put an assignment in there, just a dummy
Yeah.
assignment.
Yeah.
Also on the sidebar.
Well, I guess.
yeah, it's on the
but
sidebar.
why? Like, say
Because that's
more
the thing that's confusing.
That's what
right?
makes it
So like
confusing.
I've got my list of my filtered list, but then what are you doing that you have to then do an assignment? I can definitely add the component. I don't understand that piece of it.
We're saying that single record variable there, current
The
item filter the list.
variable?
Yeah, it looks like you can use that, but you can't. And that's the question.
I see. And so it's not about whether you should, it's about what is it for?
Yeah, or like, can
Okay.
you use that?
That helps
You
me.
know,
Okay.
Yeah, what's its purpose? Like,
Yeah.
why does it exist? And it doesn't do anything, especially you get like, I want to say logically, but in my mind, which I hope is logical, but in my mind, I see that and I think, well, if I know I'm filtering down to one item, there should be one thing in that current item, and it should be the one thing. So I just want to pull that information out of it.
I get it.
But-
And I have an answer for you. So going back to like code wise, when you go create a loop, you have to create the placement variable so it knows where to put it as you do something. It hasn't been assigned or used, or it's just there because it has to be there. Right?
But I agree that it seems like it's a bug that the flow team ought to hide it.
Yeah, like we shouldn't have access to it, but maybe it's too hard to hide or something, you know?
I see. So like,
Or maybe it has a use somewhere, and none of
Yeah.
us.
That's true. I
figured
haven't
it out.
fully exhausted what we could maybe do with this thing.
It's the Salesforce light switch on that new house you move into that doesn't turn anything on or off.
And you
Have
find
one
out
of
years
those light
later that you've
switches.
been like,
But
you know,
every
turning on
but
your
every
neighbor's
time you-
lights.
The street light outside.
It's like it's like the old Stephen Wright joke. There's a light switch in my apartment that doesn't do anything, and I keep flicking it every time I walk by. Like a couple of weeks ago, I got a letter from a woman in Wisconsin saying, "Stop it."
Yeah,
Even right.
exactly.
Oh man, good poll there.
Squire, I think if you use that variable you're pointed to right now, it just comes up current item.
Yeah, so
And then
like
you can
this would
pick
be-
your variables from it. Or your field names.
Yeah.
Now start typing one of your field names that's in your filtered list collection. That's what it's used for. That's the loop pointer that's being controlled by the loop one.
Got
Well,
it.
but no, this is not the loop one filter loop item. It's the
No?
loop from the filter the list item, which doesn't do anything. It, like is
Oh no, because I'm sorry. Yep, there it is. Current item from loop one.
yeah, it's
I
weird.
gotcha.
It's like a phantom loop item, which is why I think it has something to do with how filter works on the back end.
I think we all agree that it should not be there, and chatter shouldn't be there. So
Right.
So here's what
Yeah, make a chatter post.
I
about it.
mean, the search of current item and Salesforce gives you a lot of results here, so I can understand why this was a point of contention.
So I am going to make it my mission to figure out what the heck. So, but not on the call because that would be ridiculous. But I gotta know, and now I understand exactly what you're all saying. So I appreciate you playing along. So
We've got 25 more minutes and no more questions. So
are we all going to click in Google and see who gets the answer first?
Oh my gosh.
I thought we were just going to watch you figure out what the heck it is.
Oh, well, that would be good too. Yeah, I can try to trash all my data while writing a flow that I
Yeah,
did.
All right, David,
I
bye.
want to see. I want to see how Squire Googles that's different than how I Google. So
Hey, you
no,
know,
I'm-
there's a whole different
learning how to
there.
Google is a thing, but I
Yeah.
mean,
Also, yes.
yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
Really,
I'm just
Agent Force knows what it does.
It's worth a shot. You can send feedback back to the Agent Force support team that it didn't know what I was asking.
Is it worth a shot? Is it?
you go to Salesforce
Yes.
Help, it's run by Agent Force.
Positivity. It was worth a shot. Failure is a learning opportunity.
You know,
You could ask Microsoft Copilot.
search Google, search Yahoo, search, I don't know,
Nice.
search all the things.
What were we rambling about last week when we ran out of time? I can't even remember.
I wasn't
anymore.
here.
Mhm.
Oh, but you watched the video, so you remember.
Not yet.
Okay. I think I wasted everybody's time on permission set conversion or something.
Ooh, that's a good one though. That's a good one. I'm so
You know, I
excited
love
that
it.
everyone's having a great week though. Like no one's like Michael, we're gonna get you unstuck. And it's great.
I gotta make I typed it, but I'm gonna make the call out. We have to change the message that Mike and I were fighting during the Jam 1. We have to
You were-
change that.
You were not fighting.
I know, but that's what
You
it
were-
sounds like. And
I-
people are like, what happened? And I'm like, nothing. We had a great conversation and we talked about things and stuff. And yeah.
We will craft the message
All right, I appreciate you.
because there were no fisticuffs.
No, not at all. But I think that's what everybody's assuming is that Mike and I are at odds.
Hey,
like,
and then
no.
can we also correct the language about me calling it garbage, the sound, please?
Well, what exactly, Anne, was the terminology that you used when you accosted
I just said
me?
I couldn't hear you. I just said I couldn't hear you, okay? Didn't say it was garbage.
Joy's internal filter got that feedback and I was like, oh, the sound was trash.
But you
It
are
was.
always quieter than Mike and the guests.
You know what? We have improved our equipment situation. And so like I have
The
a whole,
last one was better, but prior to that, I had to like crank the volume to hear you at all.
Was it when they were on the plane?
Oh, that one was terrible. That was garbage.
He said it, not me.
Right. I love the feedback. I love the feedback. I just got introduced to someone else who was like, hey, Joy. And I'm like, hi. Tell me what you love about the show and then really tell me what you hate so that we can fix it. So
All right, I
Great
got one
feedback.
for you that I'm excited about, but only if anyone on the call knows anything about Salesforce DevOps. If you're not using Salesforce DevOps, it won't matter. Well, it might matter, but it seems really unlikely. So, okay, so I'm just going to spell it out. So
Mhm.
when you use Salesforce DevOps, and I think this is true for all the DevOps tools, I don't have any familiarity with Copado or GitHub GearSet or anything, but when you do your extract and you populate your GitHub pipeline, your package XML stores the API. I think everybody knows that. But there's a file in the repo that is the SFDX file, and it also has a link to the API. And the reason I'm explaining that is because if you don't update the pipeline, when you use the work items in Salesforce DevOps to push items, it might have like an API disconnect. And historically, what we thought you had to do was reload the pipeline, which requires you to like bring it all down, reconnect sandboxes, reseed it all. Because when we were updating the package, that wasn't doing anything. But what we found out was that if you just change the SFDX dash, I think it's SFDX dash something.json, I'll remember what it is in a second, in GitHub, it'll run the SFDX compare at the right API and then push that API change across your entire pipeline. So you don't have to do refreshes. You don't have to reload. You can get it up to speed. And the reason it's important if you're on DevOps is the template that's through the documentation is an old API that they recommend you update. They're trying to fix it so that it just knows what the current API is. But if you're out of sync, some cool stuff happens. For example, with the last release, there's that view all fields object level setting. I don't know if you're familiar with it. You know, there used to be modify all or there still is modify all and read all, but there's a view all field setting. And it basically just allows you, if you're not familiar, it allows you to say, if you've got this permission, we don't have to worry about FLS. You have access to every field on this object. You might not have read write to those fields, but you can see them all. Well, that setting effectively erases all FLS settings in the permission. So they're all falses. And then there's this one top level thing that just says, but they're all true. And if you don't have the right API, all you do is turn off access to all fields. And then you don't know why none of your business testers can see any fields because I granted them access to all the fields. So then point of this whole thing is, one, that setting is really cool. And if you need to change your API in your GitHub pipeline with a DevOps tool, I assume this is true for anybody because they're all using the metadata API, I think, under the covers. You can change it in that SFDX JSON file and it'll catch it up and move it forward and save yourself some time. So I confused everybody, but it was so cool for us because we've struggled with this one, especially because if you don't, we have, like 5 pipelines and multiple boxes. And if you don't change an API at the right time, or you're out of sync because of preview or whatever, it can be a real pain in the butt. And we've found a workaround that wasn't well documented. So
Yeah, we tried to use view all fields because in particular for like our own backup permissions.
Yep.
And I'm trying to find the ticket my team member open, but there is a defect and we couldn't effectively use it in full. It was really frustrating. I'll find it in a few minutes. I'll post the details in the chat.
Why isn't your own backup just using a system API access? Why do you have to do something like that?
We have ours, I believe, on integration users.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper than a full user. And
yeah, but by using the API only access, you should have read all to every object automatically.
Not at the field level. And yeah,
If
it's
the grant-
minimum access. You have to grant everything.
It works for us. That's why I'm asking.
We don't use it out of the box profile. We grant I can't remember which profile we're using for it, but we do because we frequently get reports from OWN, like we can't see X fields. A lot of times are managed package fields.
Yeah.
That like you update a managed package and like a whole new set of fields comes out. But even if we create new fields, we do have to go in and manually add them.
We haven't seen that. I agree with you, like the API only PSL grants read all to all the standard objects. And then anytime we have a managed package or some custom objects, we'll have to add the objects to a permission, but we never had to go field deep. So I'm curious.
Yeah,
Okay.
we,
I'll have to look
I also just added the KI. It's around CPQ. Because we've assigned it as CPQ license, but we still can't do it.
Assign the integration user the CPQ license.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
we still have issues.
we had the same problem with FSC. Like you can grant the PSL, but all it does is says you could have access, and then we had to add a permission that said, here's full access to the object.
Yeah, we have full access to the object. It just, I don't know what's going on with this.
Interesting.
They opened a KI on it because we complained about it, because we were super excited to roll this out for this and another use case.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that I need you to move to Milwaukee because we can compare all of our stories every day, and both of us will get smarter all the time.
That works.
Yeah, cool. All right. I'll see if I can find somewhere for you to stay.
Just meet halfway.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Kenosha.
Square, just
Yeah,
come on down.
Kenosha. Outlet
Yeah.
shopping in Salesforce. Sounds like a
Or
great day.
Frank's Diner.
All right.
Yes.
Seems like we're having the same
Or
problem. So.
Woodman's. We can just meet in the cheese aisle.
There you go.
too.
Cheese aisle at Woodman's.
Nice.
I was
The
gonna say
Wi-Fi's
there's
bad,
Wegmans
though.
in Wisconsin.
Oh my goodness.
Woodman's.
Oh no, Woodman's.
Woodman's, yes.
It's the only place
Oh,
I've ever
okay.
been to with a liquor self-checkout.
Okay, so Michael, you asked if this is a bug or a feature. Users stopped getting approval requests and record approved notifications in Chatter as of Monday.
Do they have a verified email address?
Absolutely. Verified email address, decom's all set up, everything's done, spiffs, all of that, but it's
Interesting.
So
not
did
going
you
into the
check-
chatter bell.
Weird. Because the other thing I would check is the weird behavior with like email delivery and things is if they have a reply to address set up, like our support team does, like, so you don't reply to them, you reply to the support email to case, you have to verify that separately. And so it's not as obvious because it's not like right on the user record. That has caused all kinds of headaches for us.
Interesting, okay.
I personally think if you're on
Are they-
SSO, you shouldn't have to verify emails, but
Are they not getting the notifications or are they not getting, is the Chatter post not happening?
The request for approval is not showing under the bell,
Okay,
and then, but it does appear, the item to approve, it does appear on the homepage in that little subsection.
Mhm.
So it's there, but when they go to the bell, there's no, and they are not the delegated approver, but the actual approver, the manager. So it's
and
going
it's
to the right
all
person.
approvers, not just like one person. Have this.
So far, it's been everybody, yeah, everybody that needs to approve. So you've told them to go, go check the homepage, make sure there's nothing pending. And the only
And
other
you-
thing I know, and it works in my sandbox, but my sandbox is ahead of my production environment by about one
Right.
patch.
And you're using
I'm
the
hoping that's the
standard
problem.
approvals?
Standard approval flow. So that hasn't changed in 2 years. But so I was just curious if anybody noticed it or if I'm the only last person on approvals that I've gotten classic chatter. So
Is there any hangers on in approval to the workflow permission engine? Because I know they just announced another end of life date that could have been coinciding. I'm just guessing. Like I
Wait,
know
what?
it's so like workflow and process builder and approvals all used to kind of be in the same framework back
They
in
are.
the old days. But we just saw that update that like
Mhm.
the end of life date is official for workflow and permission or process. Any chance there's ripples into approval because of that? But I don't know what the date was off the top of my head. It might be for 4 years and then I'm full of it, but
Hence the approval orchestration comment.
right, smart. Yeah, just
Major
use
league.
the MuleSoft orchestrator. and then
But
so-
it's not, you're not charged for the approval orchestration. It's the free part of that. So, but it's limited,
Yeah.
to just the approvals. But
Are
that's,
there limits on the number of approvals in a 24-hour period? Could we have done, no, but you're saying the approval's waiting, you're just not getting the notification. So that's not it. Never
yeah,
mind.
the approval
Yeah, yeah.
record exists, like the thing that says like do the thing, but the notifications aren't coming through.
They
And
just
or the
stopped.
bell isn't lighting up is what I'm hearing. And I'm
Correct.
you know, there's also like the wild, like
Is there a chatter post in the feed? If you manually go to the feed?
Oh, like maybe no, but was
I
feed
don't
turned
think
off?
so, but I believe the requests for approvals are temporary. And once you approve it, it becomes it doesn't convert it, but it then says it was approved, but that you can't go back and see that the request was done through the chatter itself. I have to double check that, but yeah, we're not seeing either one of those. It has been approved and again, that's just in production, not in my sandbox, because I'm doing all this other stuff in sandbox and it's, my bell lit up. But we did the same thing and somebody queried me. I was like, hey, we don't, I stopped getting the bell and I didn't know I had 3 things to approve.
interesting.
Also check your homepage, but whatever.
All users or one
I
user?
get it when you get used to it, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
For
think you
one
said
user,
all
but then it
all
turned into
users.
3 users, and now I've seen it's all users.
All right.
Interesting.
Just curious. I've got a bug, case open, and
Excellent.
hopefully that'll resolve. But I was just curious if anybody had any issues like that in the past, or if they're seeing anything now.
It's been a minute since I was in an org that was using approvals that I had my hands on. It's been a minute. Did we cover all the topics?
I mean, I got to be honest, Michael, we need you here every 2 weeks because you have lots of great questions.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. We get, I mean, y'all bring the content. It's great. But I like everyone, y'all showed up to help today, and it just warms my heart too. That's what community's all about, right, Steve? Steve's still on, right?
Yep.
Yep, still here.
For those of you who don't know, Steve gave the keynote at DevOps Dreamin' and he killed it. He did great. And all I wanted at the end of that was a chocolate bunny. But thank you, Steve, for that, because you spoke from the heart about the community and like how we all just kind of like contribute in a really big way. And actually, Diane's announcement that she's retiring and saying thank you to us to start this off, and then Squire, you saying, Michael, bring the questions. This is actually like a full circle situation where I really appreciate you all, and thanks so much.
Oh,
Was Steve's keynote recorded and published? Because I think
It was recorded, I believe. There
It
was
was?
a big old camera,
Uh-oh.
and I just don't know where that
But-
is going to land.
I've been told I have a face for radio and a voice for print media.
we love you, Steve.
This is not true, Steve.
That's true.
Not true. That's but
They'll have
Gearset,
somebody from
yeah.
Vermont or Connecticut do the subtitles for everybody outside of the 617.
Gearset put on DevOps Dreamin', and so Gearset might be publishing that later. We'll have to keep an eye out for it though, and we'll share it out with everyone. But if that's all that everyone's got today, I mean, unless you want to talk about your favorite spring candy, whether it's a Cadbury egg, a Reese's egg, a chocolate bunny, or those jelly beans of a particular color, because some folks like
Licorice.
those jelly beans. I am a fan of Starburst jelly beans.
Ooh, I just bought a bag of those. I can't wait to try them.
All the rest of the jelly beans can just go away. Like the Starburst jelly beans are where it's at for me.
Wait,
The
you have to
spicy
explain.
ones.
Are they like Starburst in jelly bean shape, or are they jelly beans made by Starburst?
They're jelly beans made by Starburst, but the intensity of the flavor is very close to the Starburst, but they're tiny. But they have that
they're
little
not
bit of a
toffee.
little candy crunch on the jelly bean. Sorry, you guys, I could talk about random stuff for a long time. I mean, if you were at DevOps Dreamin' last year, we talked about Oreos ad nauseum. So
I have another question that just came up though.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Email
Yeah.
log question.
Fantastic.
I just got a email that one of our flows didn't send an expected email. And so I was checking the email logs to see if that's true or if it just didn't get to them or what. And I was curious about in the email logs, is there a way to see like what template was used or what
No,
header? Okay.
it's very minimal information. It's very technical. So it's
Yeah.
like if it was a outbound or inbound, the failure reason, if they can pinpoint it, but that's really it.
Okay. So there's no way to be like, yes, like I found that this person did get some emails, but the question is, which ones did they get and were we not getting the right one?
Did the flow failure tell you which flow failed to send it, or it just was
I didn't
helpful?
get a
Like,
flow failure. That's the thing.
Okay.
Is like somebody's like, oh, this email didn't come through, and I'm like, but maybe it did.
Wait,
Because I didn't
okay,
see
so
any
you didn't get
errors.
anything
get?
on the Salesforce side that said,
Mm-mm.
okay.
I mean,
You got an
the
email from someone saying someone else didn't get an email they were expecting?
Yes.
I mean, there's so
email
many
log-
failure points. It's
Yeah.
We've seen
No, I know.
people I've dealt with people who are like, oh yeah, I forgot I created a filtering rule. It's in this folder. Or, oops,
Yeah.
I accidentally
Called
marked
it spam.
everything as spam, or I accidentally blocked the user.
I
mean,
reported that as phishing.
Yeah. Anyway, I think
Yeah.
that this is probably an email problem and not a Salesforce problem. But I was just curious if the email logs, what I was looking
yeah,
for any information in there, like, oh, I don't know what to read in here. So
The easiest
I
thing
would
to
ask
do
you
is
all.
make sure it got delivered from Salesforce and be like, this is out of my hands.
Yeah.
yeah. Basically put in the email address it's being sent to and just click like outbound, or I guess outbound in
Yeah.
this case, and just try and keep the range as tight as possible, because you could end up pulling back a lot if you're a heavy email org. But yeah,
Yeah.
99% of the time it's related to the mail client or the user. But yeah, it's Hemcac, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you get that delivered code or whatever, it's like a D and an R or a T and an R, then your next jump is, do you use Relay?
I don't know actually. I
Okay.
don't know.
That would be the two things to check that are Salesforce, and then
Okay.
you can be like, it left Salesforce, it's someone else's problem, but you
Yeah.
can track that. So
Cool. Thanks.
I'm wrapping it up with a good question. Thanks, Sarah. Love it.
I hate email questions that come
I'm
in.
here for you. Yeah. I mean, me too. But
We discovered this week one of our automated inboxes, two of them, our default case user and our default email to case user inboxes. One was full and the emails went back to 2017. And then we looked at the default case user and they went back to 2014. So apparently we had our service desk create rules for us, but they forgot to activate them.
nice.
They're like, yeah, we have a rule that says anything older than 12 months should get deleted. And she's like, but it's not active.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I was like, let's move it to 6 months and just get rid of all of it.
Well,
Put it away.
they created the rule though.
I know.
So if you're gonna split hairs on the rule being actually active and functional, then okay.
It's like creating a validation rule and not like activating it.
Yes.
Like,
But did you request that it be activated, or did you just request it?
do you know what?
I have no idea.
This
Didn't
was
say
part
it
of someone's.
activated, yeah.
This was part of someone's deployment checklist, and they didn't check activate in production. Like they didn't do it.
We have someone that takes everything hyper literally, and it's quite problematic. Like they will be like, you'll say like, hey, is this possible? And they'll be like, I already did it and deployed it. And you're like, no, I just wanted to know if it was possible. Like, please don't deploy stuff.
Everything's a proof of concept for that person. That's what you learned.
Yes.
Like-
And sometimes they'll ask you to test and they'll be like, can you test within the next 2 hours? But they work in Europe. So a lot of those 2 hours usually we're sleeping. So they're like, we didn't hear from you. We're assuming it's good. And then they ship it. It's not Salesforce. It's a different system, but it's
Wow.
like, please
Spicy.
stop. Yeah.
Spicy. All right. All right.
All right,
You-
we squeezed the last drop
Yeah.
out of this one.
Got the last bit of lemonade out of that one, and that's great. That's fantastic. All right, friends. Well, you all have a great weekend. We're supposed to have some, nicer weather. I don't believe it. Like, it's all gray skies and weird, and it's going to be stormy tonight. And I was expecting like a really great afternoon, in the Chicago area, but I'm just kind of sad. It's just kind of like, blah.
Is it
Um,
humid?
It's just kind of, it's not really humid. It's just kind of like, ugh.
Mm.
I was
sister
outside
has-
earlier.
Same
My
here.
sister has snow on the ground in Wyoming for Easter,
Mm.
like
It
4 to
snowed on
6
Wednesday
inches.
here. Yeah.
I'll take rain over snow right now.
Same. I'm just annoyed I have to walk to my Pilates class and back because they're doing construction and there's literally no parking. So if it rains, it's gonna make me real grouchy.
All right, friends, you have a great weekend. Happy Friday. Thanks
Stay
for
in
coming. We'll
touch,
see you in a
Diane.
couple
We'll
weeks.
miss you.
The next meeting is
Bye, Diane.
Windspire.
The first
something.
Friday of next month. Yep.
The second,
Such a
May
smart.
2nd.
That's all I got.
May 2nd. It is May 2nd. May 2nd. We'll talk to you all May 2nd or sometime online. Have a great weekend. Bye, friends.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. We appreciate you. See you later.